So here is JD Vance. He is in Pennsylvania giving his speech today. I kind of want to hear what he has to say. Anything new? What's going on in the political environment? Let's skip forward to the point that he actually comes out. Over here. Nope. That's still not it. Where is he? Yeah, there he is. Right here.
Few notes of gratitude, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about why we believe in American trucking and American industry in this country, and why President Trump and I are going to fight for the truckers. But before we do that, and then we're going to talk some questions from the media here. But before we do that, let me just make a few words of thanks here. So we have Macy Kantz, who owns a small business here in town. Where's Macy Kantz at? Can you wave to us?
No, he just came out. Being here. It's right here. Here, I'll show you. This is when he just came out. It is great
to be in Erie, Pennsylvania. God bless y'all. Now, here's what we're going to do. First of all, I want to offer a few notes of gratitude, and then I'm going to talk a little bit.
Jared says, fight for the trucker union. Hell yeah, let's do it, brother.
About why we believe in American trucking and American industry in this country, and why President Trump and I are going to fight for the truckers. But before we do that, and then we're going to talk some questions from the media here. But before we do that, let me just make a few words of thanks here. So we have Macy Kantz, who owns a small business here in town. Where's Macy Kantz at? Can you wave to us? Macy, thank you so much for being here, and thanks for all your support. Let's give it up for Macy. We have Dan Doyle, owner of Reliance Well Services. Where's Dan? Dan, thank you, man. We have Slippery Rock Mayor, Marine, and most importantly, fellow JD Longo. And we've, of course, got Harold Bender and his beautiful family, the owner of Hardinger Trucking. Thank you, Harold. And I believe, Harold, you go by H, is that correct? All right, I'll make sure to call you H. So thank you all for being here, and we're here to celebrate American trucking and here to celebrate American industry and remind everybody just how good our truckers could do if we get better leadership in the White House, which is why we're going to send Donald J. Trump back to the Oval Office.
All right.
Now we're here, of course, in the great state of Pennsylvania, where, I don't know if you knew this, I just learned 1 in 15 jobs in the state of Pennsylvania relies on the trucking industry. That's amazing. And yet we have a Vice President Kamala Harris who wants to be president, who thinks that our truckers, we ought to put them out of business, and that our truckers should all learn computer code. That's what Kamala Harris believes about the trucking industry. Because if we've learned anything about the last 3.5...
Slippery Rock, what a cool name. I know nothing about JD Vance other than he might be involved with Project 2025 somehow. I think the Democrat side were saying that he wrote the foreword for it. I'm going to look it up for you. We'll figure out what's actually going on in real time.
Years, I think it's that we have not enough truckers and way too many computer coders. Let's support the trucking industry in this country, Kamala, not put it out of business. And if anybody needs to get a new job and learn to code, it's Kamala Harris. Ain't that right? Let's throw out of office. So we have a different message, President Trump and I, we have a different message. Our truckers are irreplaceable, and we are going to fight for them every single day. And that's why we're here today, and that's why we're going to keep on doing stuff the right way. Now, here's the thing that I think it's important for those, all of you get this, but I think a lot for especially our friends in the press and those watching at home. Look, if you don't have American trucking, nothing works. How do you think the groceries get to the grocery stores? From American truckers. How do you think that the things that you buy at Target or any other store, how do they get there? They get there with American truckers. We do not have an economy unless American truckers are able to do what they do so well. And we have a president right now and a Vice President, Kamala Harris, who wants to raise the price of diesel, raise the price of gasoline, and have every trucker in this country drive an electric vehicle, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we have we have a lot in the state of Ohio. We have a lot of great trucking companies, just like you do here in the state of Pennsylvania. And I was meeting with some local truckers when I was in D.C. at my Senate office. This is probably 6 or so months ago. And what struck me is not
fact checking in real time. This is from the Politic, I think is who wrote this shit. Yeah, Our Politics, TNR, whoever this company is. Obviously, they're pretty left leaning, so take that with a grain of salt. But this is what their claims are. This says, read JD Vance's Violent Forward to Project 2025 Leaders' new book. And so basically they start out the article saying that Trump is saying that he has nothing to do with it. He didn't know anything about Project 25. He doesn't know what they're talking about. But then he selects JD Vance as his running mate. And then they kind of spiel into here about how Vance did write the forward for Project 2025. And obviously it has some weird shady stuff in there. So that's kind of what I'm not going to get into details of what's actually in the forward, but this is what they're saying. They're saying that he's connected to Project 25 because of, actually, I didn't bring the article up. This is the article here in case you guys want to see it, the one that I'm reading. It's Politics, this TNR publication, but that's the gist of what they're saying. They're saying, well, this guy wrote the forward and you picked him as your running mate. So obviously you do have a little bit to do with Project 25 if the dude who wrote the forward is in the book, right? So that's their claim.
Just that they were frustrated by Kamala Harris's policies. What struck me is how little Kamala Harris knew about the business of trucking in this country. In fact, I guess one of them asked a senior administration official, they said, well,
without trucking, there wouldn't be production delivered to supermarkets. Absolutely. That's what I was thinking. How would we survive without trucking infrastructure? So if Musk is an electric guy, why isn't he supporting Harris for fully electric America? Well, I can tell you that is because Musk is really worried about free speech and censorship and all of that, yada, yada. You can kind of listen to that in his interview on X with Trump. The reasons why he doesn't like Harris is pretty obvious at this point, that it's most of it's to do with censorship. And the Democrats kind of point him as this evil billionaire guy, blah, 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 blah. Trump's going to do tax breaks for the rich, and then Elon's going to make all this money because of it. That's the narrative. But as far as the trucking thing goes on, I'm going to look that up too, because I don't know what they're trying to say here, that Harris isn't for the trucking union. I haven't even heard anything about that. Thank you so much for that. You were in the sub from me for sure. Hey, thank you for the sub.
You guys want us to all drive electric trucks. That doesn't make any sense. And they said, no. We're going to get electric trucks to the point where they're the same price as a normal diesel truck. And so I guess these truckers asked Kamala Harris's officials, well, how much does an electric truck cost right now? And they said about $150,000. And all of you are laughing. But the reason you're laughing, to the friends of the media, is the reason they're laughing is an electric truck right now costs $400,000. If you force all these great truckers to buy electric trucks instead of the trucks they're currently using, you're going to make this inflation crisis way worse than it currently is. You think groceries are bad? Wait until Kamala Harris makes every American trucker drive an electric truck. You think car prices are bad? Wait until Kamala Harris makes everybody buy a Chinese-made electric vehicle. And you think housing...
So that, I mean, he pretty much said it right there. That's what he's talking about. And I think that... I don't think that's something that Harris has actually said. I'm going to look that up. I think what he's getting at is more the law that went out in California that was going to require people to have an electric vehicle at some date in the future. It was like 2030 or something. That was legit. I think he's more speaking on that and how that wouldn't be feasible for the trucker union. I don't think that's something that Harris actually said. I'm sure Trump and Musk will sort something out with the electric stuff. Yeah, they're already working on it right now. RFK will help Trump deal with the middle class. Yeah, so let me see if Harris has actually said anything about any of these truck issues.
Prices are bad. Wait until Kamala Harris makes it impossible for our truckers to get construction materials to the house building site. Kamala Harris's policies are a disaster, ladies and gentlemen, not just for truckers, but for everybody who relies on them, which is everybody. And I think we have to have some compassion for the people who've been affected by all of our terrible policies. It's one of the reasons why we've got to get Donald Trump back in the White House. Because every single day, hardworking Pennsylvanians, truckers, and everybody else, they're working harder and harder, but they're falling further behind. And let's just tick through some of the information here. In the state of Pennsylvania, you are $11,400 poorer than you were on average than when Donald Trump left office. What that means is you have to spend almost $12,000 to get the same stuff now that you could buy 3.5 years ago. Is that prosperity? Absolutely not. Under Kamala Harris's policies.
All right, so I'm going to shut JD Vance down in great fact-checking ways that we do here on this channel. So this is Fox News, so you would expect it to be on the right side. It's actually Fox Business, but Fox News nonetheless. And it says, Harris campaign says Dem nominee does not support electric vehicle mandate in attempt to flip the script. So I come down here and it says, in a fact-check email, Harris campaign rapid response director Omar wrote that Senator JD Vance would undoubtedly lie about things like that Harris wants to force every American to own an electric vehicle. Fact, Vice President Harris does not support an electric vehicle mandate. Donald Trump rallied against the Inflation Reduction Act while the Biden-Harris administration oversaw the creation of tens of thousands of new clean energy jobs in Michigan and provided groundbreaking subsidies and tax credits for electric vehicles. So Fox News here is even saying that this isn't true. I again think it came from that bill in California, and they just kind of assume they're all on the left, so they all agree with the same thing. You know, similar to Project 25, if the running mate is writing the forward, then that must mean that Trump supports it. So it could be true depending on who you want to believe. You think these people are all liars or how that's going to go down, but just looking through this, you know, she doesn't support that. So I'm going to go and say he's lying here.
In Pennsylvania, the average worker's wages have gone down by 6%. So people are working harder and harder. Things cost more at the grocery store. Things cost more everywhere. And our workers aren't getting the wage increases they need to keep up. Donald Trump has a different idea. Donald Trump thinks we ought to have more take-home pay. Donald Trump thinks that our truckers ought to be empowered to do their jobs, and Donald Trump thinks that Kamala Harris ought to get the hell out of the office and let somebody who knows what they're doing. Now, I want to just talk about the contrast a little bit, because let's really discuss the details, the difference between Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump. We know, of course, Donald Trump had a lot of great successes in the Oval Office, and we know Kamala Harris has not had a whole lot of successes. But let's talk about why. Let's talk about the policy details. Now, here, President Trump's view is very simple. We're going to end this terrible affordability crisis, and we're going to increase take-home pay with 3 simple things. Number 1, we're going to stop 25 million illegal aliens coming into this country competing for wages against American workers. We're going to stop ridiculous job-killing regulations like the EV mandate. Let's buy American.
So I was trying to bring up that Financial Times article, but I couldn't find it. If you want to put the title of the article in there, I'll search for it. But then, well, not everything Fox News says is true. Sometimes I like what Fox says, and sometimes I don't. Why would JD Vance lie? Well, why would he lie? Is so he can get elected, obviously. Does that mean Fox News is the end all be all? No, man, I would agree with you. They're all heavily flawed. So yeah, may I ask, do you support Kamala or Trump or undecided? I'm more leaning towards Trump for sure. And I put out a video on my YouTube today. If you want to look at it, it basically just comes down to Trump actually has his policies on his website and Kamala doesn't. I don't think you can actually vote for Kamala because she doesn't have anything in writing what she actually wants to do. I don't think that's a thing you can actually vote for, you know? Yeah. So anyway.
American-made stuff, not Chinese-made stuff.
And I just saw we got another like in there. So hell yeah, let's do that. Pump up them likes on them YouTubes. All right,
and number 3, we are going to drill, baby, drill. We got plenty of energy right here in Pennsylvania. Let's get it out of the ground with Pennsylvania workers. Now, here's the other thing that Kamala Harris wants to do. Kamala Harris thinks that instead of deporting illegal immigrants, we should be giving them amnesties. Does that sound like a good idea? Kamala Harris thinks that instead of unleashing Pennsylvania energy workers, we ought to buy energy from Iran and every tin-pot dictator all over the world. Is that a good idea? And Kamala Harris thinks that instead of unleashing American energy and American creativity and American business, we ought to tax you guys more to send your money to communist China to buy electric vehicles. Is that a good idea? So is it a good idea to give Kamala Harris a promotion? No, we're going to do what Donald Trump loves to do to people who don't do their jobs. You are fired, Kamala Harris. You're out of there. It's done. Now, the president actually just called me. I was sitting back there backstage, and the president called me, and he said, you know, the crazy thing is, JD, that Kamala Harris, she's pretending that she agrees with us on everything. And if you look at her campaign the past week and a half, she pretends that she agrees with Donald J. Trump on every issue. She is running a copycat campaign. And I said, Mr. President, I think I figured out what's going on. She wants my job. She's realizing that they don't have any chance. She's going to ditch Tim Walz, and she wants to run alongside Donald Trump. She's pretending she agrees with you on everything, but we can't let her pretend, ladies and gentlemen. We have to remind people of the real record. Kamala Harris wants to defund the police.
So I pulled up the article. Chad says she's really piggybacking off Trump's ideas, which absolutely is true. Totally agree with you there. So I got this article. I pulled up the one that you sent in here. What is it? Person. And so I'm looking through this. So far, it's a lot of blah, blah, blah about her not being supported by the truckers, Teamsters guys. And I'm looking through it. I don't see anything about her mandating EVs, which was the main claim that JD Vance was making here. I see that they are supporting Trump. That's what most of the article says in here, but it doesn't say anything about EVs being mandated, which is the main claim that JD Vance is making here. I don't know. Maybe I overlooked it, but I'm looking through here. I don't see anything about EVs. Yeah, it's just them saying that they don't support her. That's it.
Kamala Harris wants to ban fracking. Kamala Harris wants to further entrench the EV mandate that sends your tax dollars to China instead of buying American-made cars from American workers. Kamala Harris has said all these things on videotape, and as much as she wants to pretend she agrees with Donald Trump, I have a suggestion, Kamala Harris. If you would like to enact the policies of Donald Trump, you could do it right now because you are the vice president. So do it right now. Don't pretend you're going to do it in 6 months.
JD Vance said that Teamsters don't support Trump. Yeah, I agree with that. That's not the argument that I was making. He's saying the reason why they don't support Kamala is because Kamala said that she was going to mandate electric vehicles. Nowhere have I found did Kamala actually say that. You're right, they don't support Kamala, but the reason that he gave, like Trump kind of fashion, is usually to the extreme doom and gloom kind of thing, where I'm not finding any evidence that she said that.
Now, I've been in politics for all of 2 years, and I've met some pretty shameless politicians, but I've never met anybody who, as the sitting vice president, could stand before a crowd and say, on day one, we're going to tackle the affordability crisis affecting American families. It's like, Kamala, day one was 1,300 days ago. You've been the vice president for 3.5 years. If you want to get to work, start now. Don't make promises. Start doing it now.
What's that? Oh, that's another like right there.
And here's the fun, big difference between...
My stream over there on YouTube is kind of like being throttled down a little bit from the last video.
Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. You know, I've been asked by the media, I've been attacked by the Harris campaign because I believe in a very simple principle. that our tax policy ought to reward American workers and American businesses, and I know Donald Trump agrees. So here is the contrast here. Donald Trump wants to cut your taxes. Donald Trump wants to cut taxes on American businesses hiring American workers, and he wants to raise tariffs on the Chinese and everybody who's trying to rely
That's true. He's always said that. I've watched a lot of Trump speeches. That's definitely his plan. Apparently my data plan doesn't like Twitch, had to jump back over to YouTube. YouTube's back up. We back in business over there on YouTube. It looks like the stream is a little bit being pressed down in the algorithm. I don't see that there's actually anybody over there watching my YouTube stream right now. Some people are coming in and then dipping, but yeah, I think the whole watching that last video kind of killed YouTube.
On Chinese slave labor instead of American hardworking people.
But the stream's up.
And Kamala Harris wants to raise your taxes and cut down on the tariffs that are making it harder for people to cheat and use Chinese labor instead of American workers. It's ridiculous.
Now, specifically, he's saying that Kamala wants to raise taxes. She's not leading that in her campaign. Obviously, she's not saying, I'm going to raise your taxes going around. She's saying that she's going to cut, or she's saying that she's going to raise taxes for corporations. And I think that's how she plans to make all this money to give away to people, because that's her entire campaign. She said, now I'm going to give you all this money. I'm going to give you these housing grants and all of this bullshit that obviously is going to raise your taxes. People hear that. They hear, oh, I'm going to get a grant for my house or whatever else she's selling. And they don't immediately think that their taxes are going to be raised, but they absolutely are going to go up. She thinks that she's going to pay for all this stuff by taxing corporations. Hell to the nah. That's not going to work. Those corporations are going to bail on America so fast if they know that they can make more profits in different regions. That's just how business works, baby. That's not going to work. Wouldn't raising tariffs on overseas imports increase U.S. Union supplies? It depends. Like the thought is that having tariffs overseas is going to increase the price cost here. Like we're going to end up paying for these tariffs anyways. That's the Harris argument, which could be, that could happen for sure. We'd have to actually see what happens, but yeah, it could be. And obviously as prices go up, yeah, that would increase supply because people don't want to buy as much, as in demand for the US made products. Well, it's not the US made products that he's talking about. He's talking about us buying overseas products. At least that's what I think he was running with. All the products that are actually coming into the US, I think he was trying to do more tariffs on that. And a lot of the trades that he's trying to make, basically, if he's not getting a good deal, he's saying he's going to do more tariffs as well as like a punishment to these people. But yeah, dog is back. Dog is back.
Why don't we make it easier to hire American and harder to rely on Chinese slave labor? That's the Donald Trump approach, and I know every single person here agrees with it. So let me leave you with one final thought here, and then I want to kick it over to our illustrious media to ask some questions.
Hell yeah.
It's very simple, my friends. Look, we have the best country in the entire world. I've been flying...
America.
USA! 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 I've been flying all over the country, doing events like this all over the country with my beautiful wife. Isn't she lovely? Sorry to embarrass you, Usha, but you bring your wife to Erie, Pennsylvania, you got to embarrass her a little bit, right? And all I can think about when we fly into a new place or we drive to a new place is what a beautiful country this is. I'm a Buckeye, and yesterday I was in Big Rapids, Michigan, and it was hard to admit it, but Big Rapids, Michigan is a beautiful place. Erie, Pennsylvania is a beautiful place. We have got the best natural resources and the most beautiful countryside of any country on the face of the earth. And we've got something better than that. We've got the best history. We've got the best traditions. We have got the best workers right here in Pennsylvania. The only thing, thank you. The only thing that is broken about this country is its leadership. There is nothing that we cannot do as a people, nothing that we cannot do as a people. So let's send a message right here in Erie, Pennsylvania, all over the state of Pennsylvania, and all over the country. We are sick of the broken leadership of Kamala Harris. We're going to get a president who is equal to the challenge of this country and deserves to be the leader of its people. That's Donald J. Trump. And together, we're going to put him back in the White House. God bless you all. Thank you.
No. You said you're going to take questions.
And thank you for having me in Pennsylvania. Now, I know we have some reporters here.
Okay.
If you would, let's start with the local reporters. We'll have them ask some questions, then we'll kick it over to some national folks. Sir.
There we go.
Ma'am, I don't need a teleprompter. I've actually got thoughts in my head, unlike Kamala Harris.
Good evening, Senator. Thanks for coming to Erie County, Pennsylvania. Philip Ward from Erie News Now. Senator,
Phil's one of the good guys, right?
Senator, how do you relate to Erie County voters, and what does a potential Trump-Vance administration mean for us locally?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Driving through Erie, Pennsylvania, I could not help but think how much this reminds me of my hometown in Middletown, Ohio, right? And this, of course, is a town with a proud manufacturing and proud steelmaking tradition. By the way, why don't we keep American steel companies owned by America, right? But a proud manufacturing tradition, and all I could think driving through Erie is this is a beautiful place, but it has been left behind by a lot of stupid policies from people like.
She has not said anything on taxes, so we have to look at what she said when running for president in 2019. The article is called "How Radical Will Kamala Harris's Tax Policy Be?" Look at your past by Daniel. So actually, she said at the DNC that she was going to tax corporations. I promise you, I'm not making that up. That's pretty much every speech that she says. She says she's going to tax corporations. Her whole spiel is that big corporations aren't fair or paying their share, and that they're somehow getting breaks by evil Trump and not paying, and then the lower to middle class are paying all the taxes, blah, 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 blah. That's literally her platform. That's what she runs as. That I believe you on by National Review does not. How are they going to argue that? That's literally what she says. I have thoughts in my head. I'm like, Kamala Harris, kind of funny. Yeah, that was pretty funny. That's witty. It's like, I don't need a teleprompter. I can do this on my own. I'll look at that article, though. Let me pull it up.
Kamala Harris. And let's be honest, it's not just Kamala Harris. There was a consensus in this country for 30 years that we didn't need to make our own stuff. And so now everything from a lot of the steel that we rely on to the drugs that we put in the bodies of our children, from ibuprofen to antibiotics, it's made by our adversaries instead of made by American workers. Wasn't that stupid? Yeah. And the one person in politics in my lifetime who said, no more of this, we want to rely on Pennsylvania workers, was Donald J. Trump. And over 4 years of his leadership, we had a bigger boom for American manufacturing and American energy than we've seen. That benefits the people of Erie, Pennsylvania. We had rising take-home pay and rising wages under the leadership of Donald Trump, and we had a world that was at relative peace and calm. And now we've got a world at war in seemingly every continent. Who's going to fight those wars? I guarantee you, it's not going to be Kamala Harris's family. It's going to be the people right here from Erie, Pennsylvania. So we want peace, right? Peace and stability. But even bigger than that, we want an economy that employs good Pennsylvania workers to make things for people all over this country. And we want truckers to be empowered instead of throttled and to have their industry destroyed. It's very simple. And if we do that, we're going to make the lives of every single people in this room, every single person in this room, and all across the state of Pennsylvania better. And the final point that I make is, look, Rome wasn't built in a day and Rome wasn't burned down in a day. We had so much success for just 4 years of Donald Trump's leadership. I think we're going to have a hell of a lot more with 4 more years of Donald J. Trump. Sir.
Hello, Senator. Thank you for coming to Erie today. I'm Tyler Gallagher. I'm with Jet 24 News here.
All right, man.
Erie's kind of had a declining economy and population. How's the Trump...
Hit the follow over there on Twitch and come back, dude. I like having these political conversations.
Administration going to directly help the hardworking people of Erie bring people back here and, create more jobs?
It's pretty simple, actually. But unfortunately, we have a leadership that's completely broken. I mean, the first thing that you have to do, if you want to help the people of Erie, Pennsylvania, is you have got to unleash American energy. It'll make manufacturing cheaper. It'll make trucking cheaper. It'll help everybody.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris embraced the mockery of biological women, kept the borders open, and got innocents killed. Embrace perversion into our culture and institutions. Trump 24. Embrace the mockery of biological women. Can you break that down for me? I'm trying to... That was a yawn from the dog. Yeah, maybe elaborate on that a little bit. I don't know. I'm with you on the borders.
Look at it, it's not just our businesses. I remember growing up in Middletown, Ohio, and I grew up in a poor family, and I was raised by my grandmother. I remember the nights when it was really cold in the dead of winter, and money was a little tight, and we decided, well, we don't have enough to turn on the heater tonight. We're gonna have to sit in front of a space heater, or maybe just throw a bunch of blankets on. And that's what we're gonna do. I happen to believe that if you work hard and play by the rules, this is the richest country in the world. You ought to be able to turn on the heater for your children. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris's policies mean less energy, less money in people's pockets, and a lot of people freezing on a cold winter night. I think that's a disgrace in the richest country in the world. We can do so much better with better leadership. The second thing you got to do is, look, I talked about Chinese slave labor earlier. One of the reasons why this community has been left behind by our leaders is we decided we were going to let companies make things using Chinese slave labor. And I happen to think we shouldn't expect Americans to compete with a bunch of Chinese slave laborers. We ought to expect American companies to hire American and build in the United States of America. And if you do more of that, you're going to bring more jobs to Erie, Pennsylvania. You're going to build the economic foundation of this place. You're going to have higher tax revenues to go into the schools and the public services. You build more things in America, and it lifts up the entire community of Erie, Pennsylvania. And that's what Donald Trump and I are going to fight for. And then the final thing is, look, the number one issue when I go to places like Erie, Pennsylvania is inflation. The number two issue is, why did Kamala Harris open up the southern border and let these cartels bring in the poison that's killing our families? It's ridiculous. We got to stop doing this craziness. She said on day one she wanted to open up the border. She said on day one she wanted to suspend deportations. She said on day one she was going to end Donald Trump's Remain in Mexico policy. Donald Trump has a different message for illegal immigrants. Pack your bags, because in 6 months you're going home.
That's fact.
And when we do that, you're going to have fewer people dying of drug overdoses. You're going to have fewer people who are suffering because you've got drug cartels operating freely in their communities. You've just got to do it. You've got to close that border. It's good for public safety and a whole host of other things too.
I don't know what it is, but I'm not digging that tie. Clearly this dude does not want me to stream. I don't know what his deal is. What's wrong with the tie? Oh, hell. Come on, Tank. You fucked everything up. All right. All right. Come on. Down. All right. Okay. All right. Just a major crash here. No big deal. All right, let me fix this. Oh, come on. Give me a second. I'm going to let him outside. The hell? Is that the vicious dog from earlier? Yes, that is the clearly vicious dog that is just, he clearly just attacked me. I don't know what happened. He like slammed on my keyboard and then now it's like doing this weird thing. Let's see if I can fix it. There we go, right? We back? Bring the volume back.
Media has turned this into a national news story. You know what I think our veterans care a lot more about? That Kamala Harris's VP nominee lied. News story. You know what I think our veterans care a lot more about? That Kamala Harris's VP nominee lied about his military service. I think that our veterans care a lot more about that.
That boy.
And the other thing that our veterans care, a lot more about is that 3 years ago,
what'd I miss?
13 brave, innocent Americans died, and they died because Kamala Harris.
When did the Republicans become the party for the working class? Also, when did the Democrats become the party of war? That's what I was saying earlier in the stream. Everything that we have known for the longest time is a lie. Everything has changed. The only thing that I do know is that I'm looking over at YouTube and I got 5 likes. I don't know if it was the dog destroying my keyboard, but we're moving up. Is that the vicious dog from earlier? Yeah, that was definitely the vicious dog.
Refused to do her job, and there hasn't been a single firing. I don't look, sometimes mistakes happen. That's just the nature of government, the nature of military service. But to have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
She can go to hell. That's what he said. All right. America.
Thank you, sir. One more. Any other questions here? Ma'am. Oh, sorry, debate prep. Look, the way I'm doing debate prep is by spending time with these fine people. This is how I do debate prep, is you get out there. You get out there, you talk to people, you talk about the issues that matter. We don't need to prepare for a debate with Tim Walz. We need to get out there and talk. We need to get out there.
It does seem more real when they're not like trying to find a less worse word.
Look, we need to get out there and talk to the American people. That's the biggest way that we're going to prepare for that debate on October the 1st. And I guess CBS is hosting it, right? So we got to be nice to her, ladies and gentlemen, because CBS is hosting the debate in a few weeks. Ma'am. That's right.
Is on. Thank you, Senator. Surin Kim with ABC News. I have 2 questions for you as well.
Sure.
One is going back to Kit's question about Brian Kemp. Are you playing any role in facilitating any, are you playing any role in facilitating connections with Governor Brian Kemp or other Republican members? Bringing them back to the Trump world at all? My second question is, since becoming Trump's running mate, have you talked to former Vice President Mike Pence for any advice in campaigning? Have you connected with him, or have you talked to him about maybe him supporting President Trump?
So the first question, look, a lot of people have talked to Brian Kemp, and I'm proud to be among them. I think he's been a good governor for the state of Georgia. I certainly gave him a phone call. I think 150 other people have given Brian Kemp a phone call and talked about the need to have a unified Republican team. I don't take any special credit for it. I think a lot of people deserve more credit than I do, including the President of the United States, because I think President Trump has been very, very aggressive at trying.
Oh, yeah, what's going on? The camera needs to pan over and show us what's going on in the crowd.
Yes, sir. All right.
That's right. There we go. This stupid phone. I was trying to. There we go.
It's right. So humid in here. I thought we lost one of our Secret Service agents. I was worried about him, but we're good. God bless you, man. Glad you're okay. But look, the media, here's what the media wants to tell a story that somehow I have been the peace broker between Brian Kemp and Donald Trump. It's just not true. I reached out to Brian Kemp. I encouraged him to support the president, and he didn't take much persuasion. He wanted to support the president because he thinks Kamala Harris is going to be a disaster. So I think there are a lot of friends. There are a lot of friends of Brian Kemp's and a lot of friends of the president's. I think a lot of people deserve credit for this unified Republican ticket. I'm not going to take that credit myself, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Senator
Yep.
Vance, Emma
Go
Barnett
ahead.
with NBC News. Thank you so much for taking all of our questions. 2 questions, one local one and one international one. First of all, what are some of the specific policies you would implement to improve the lives of truckers in Erie, Pennsylvania? And then also last night, Israel launched the largest raid in the West Bank in at least 20 years. Should the Israelis ask for American boots on the ground from a Trump-Vance administration, would you oblige, and how would you respond to these current events?
I don't want to put American troops on the ground for anybody's wars but ourselves, right? That's a very important principle. And I say that, and I say that as somebody who believes that the Israelis have every right to destroy Hamas. We support them in what they're doing, but they're not asking. They're not asking for American boots on the ground. They can take care of business themselves. They just need a vice president or a president who allows them to do the job instead of trying to take Hamas's side over Israel's, which is not what Donald Trump and I are going to do. The first question was about, sorry, I forgot your first question.
The first question was about specific policies that would help
truckers.
Erie
Yep,
truckers.
that's good. That's right. So look, the most specific policy that we have to help the truckers of Erie, Pennsylvania is to fire Kamala Harris and to replace her with Donald Trump, right? That's what we need to do. She is the source of so much that's broken in this country. But look, I mean, you talk to truckers, there are 2 big things that I think we can do. First of all, there are a lot of people who would like to be truckers, and our education system is trying to force everybody to go get a 4-year college degree. There are a lot of truckers out there who make a lot more money and have a lot better job than 4-year college degree holders. Let people do what they want to do and have an education system that empowers people to make their own choices for their own lives instead of forcing them to do what Kamala Harris wants them to do. That's number 1. Number 2, you talk to our truckers, what is the biggest cost that they have, the biggest increase? We ask them right there, they're all saying fuel in unison. Fuel has gone up, depending on where you are, between 35 and 55%, thanks to the policies of Kamala Harris. We have got to drill, baby, drill, unleash American energy. It'll help our truckers. It's going to help everybody else too. And I'll take one more question before we hit the road.
JD Vance just got my vote for saying that. What did he say?
Senator Vance,
Great.
how has your military service and being a veteran prepared you to A, be a senator and potentially vice president of these United States?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. Well, I am a United States Marine, and I'm proud of it, and I did what my country asked me to do. And I'd say the Marine Corps gave me 2 perspectives. Number 1, what's great about the Marine Corps is whether you're a 19-year-old kid or a 23-year-old fresh out of college or a 45-year-old who's been in the Marine Corps for 25 years, the Marine Corps demands that you occupy positions of leadership.
Yep.
And it lets you make mistakes, and it teaches you how to improve from those mistakes. But the Marine Corps is the first taste I got of real leadership, and that's the most important quality in a vice president. You got to be able to lead people, okay?
He doesn't believe the U.S. putting boots on the ground except for wars we're in only. He doesn't believe in the U.S. putting boots on the ground, which, yeah, I'd be for that. We don't need to go to another war for sure.
That's what the Marine Corps taught me. The second thing I'd say is it gives me a fresh perspective on the problems that a lot of our military families and a lot of our troops are facing. And one thing I learned in the Marine Corps is perhaps the most precious resource that we have in this country is the lives of our young people who put on the uniform and are willing to sacrifice it all for the United States of America. That is a precious, precious resource, a sacred. And it really is a sacred thing. I mean, you've got kids, some of the kids I served with in the Marine Corps, you had a guy, a Puerto Rican guy who grew up in poverty in the Bronx. I had a guy who grew up in a rich family in the suburbs of Maryland. We had my background. We had a kid who grew up from California. You meet people from all over this beautiful country, and they all are united by a common objective. And that's an amazing thing. That's really a sacred obligation that the president and the vice president has to take care of those people. And yes, sometimes you've got to send them to mess things up and fix the American people's business, but you only do it when you have to. And you treat that resource with care. And
that LT is getting lost in land nav. Yeah, absolutely. As a crusty technical sergeant, I can tell you for sure that LT is quite lost.
When, as Kamala Harris let happen, you let 13 people die because you screwed up and didn't do your job, you at least got to have an investigation and figure out what went wrong so you don't do it the next time. You got to respect the troops, and that's the number one thing I take from my time in the United States Marine Corps. And when I say respect, I don't just mean thank them. I don't mean just buy them a beer when you see them at a bar. That stuff is all important. I mean respect them enough to actually take care of them and not waste their lives and their sacrifice, which is what, unfortunately, the last administration has done. Now, let me just leave you with one final thought. We have to hit the road, and I'm sorry to have to leave because I've had a good time, and I hope you all have had some fun too. But you all in Pennsylvania are going to get sick of me over the next 2 months because I practically live here in the state of Pennsylvania because this is such an important state for us. Thank you, sir. I will. And we got to remember, the only way, think of all the powerful interests, the broken bureaucracy in this country, the people who've gotten rich shipping your jobs to China, they want Kamala Harris. The only way to beat them and the only way to fight back is at the ballot box this November. Let's get out there, win Pennsylvania, re-elect Donald Trump, and take this country back. God bless you all. Thank you.
All right.